Greetings, everyone. This is Eric Glazer, and welcome to our live recording of Bright Spots in Healthcare, produced by Shared Purpose Connect. We bring leaders together to not only inform you, our audience, but also unearth bright spots, successes at health plans, hospitals, and other healthcare-related organizations around the country. Our goal is to identify as many bright spots as possible so that you can determine if the ideas shared during this episode can be applied to your organization. We believe that this approach of finding a bright spot and cloning it is the most effective strategy to improving healthcare in our lifetime. Our topic today is improved CAHPS through benefits navigation, and we have a great roundtable of experts to share with you insights and bright spots. We have Ann Tomlinson, the CEO at ATI Advisory, and she's going to share with us a lot of trends from the industry around Medicare and supplemental benefits. We have Don Maroney, the CEO of Alignment Health Plan and the president of Markets at Alignment Health, and John Petito, the corporate vice president of strategy and transformation at Scan Health Plan, and they're going to share incredible examples and bright spots of how their great organizations are applying some of these interesting ideas and tactics. And of course, we have Ashish Shah. He's the chief executive officer of DINA, and he's going to share some perspectives on strategy and also the convergence of the human touch and technology to get more scale and get more effectiveness navigating to supplemental benefits. So very excited to have you all here. If you want to get firsthand kind of knowledge of the depth and experience you're about to all benefit from, I encourage, if you're listening to the podcast, we're going to have a link there to everyone's bios. And if you're watching live on Zoom, we're going to put a link to everyone's bios right in the chat. We always like saving those formal introductions in the interest of time. And we do have a jam-packed agenda planned for you today. Our sponsor today is none other than DINA. They have literally reinvented how health plans are able to provide benefits, navigation, and care coordination through combining, like I said, this innovative platform they have and the human touch. And I'll give you some more details on DINA later on in the show. But meanwhile, you can check them out at dinacare.com. I'm going to spell that for you. DINA care, that's one word, .com. Before we get started, a quick little PSA. We're starting to produce right now at Bright Spots in Healthcare Q3 and Q4 episodes. And so we really want your feedback. We also want to get your guidance how we can continue to make these episodes better for all of you. I always like saying we produce this show each week for you, so it's invaluable that we get your direct feedback. So at 45 minutes past the hour, you're going to get another email from me with a link to a Survey Monkey. It's like 10, maybe it's 12 questions, mostly multiple choice, and it'll allow us to get some guidance from you and how we can continue to produce a valuable 60 minutes each week for all of you on the topics that are most important. All right, let's jump right into it and set the stage with a macro analysis of the health plan industry. And to do that, I'd like to formally introduce Ann Tomlinson. She is the CEO of ATI Advisory, as I said earlier. And where are health plans investing in regards to supplemental benefits?
Well, it's been a really exciting few years, I have to say, for supplemental benefits and Medicare Advantage for a couple of reasons. One is just the sheer amount of dollars being spent on supplemental benefits going up. So MedPAC literally 2 days ago just published new data. We've seen the per member per month spend on average across all the plans in Medicare Advantage go up from $36 to $50, which is incredible. We've also had the advent of and the authorization, new federal policy that enables the plans to expand supplemental benefits into all of these new categories that I'm sure the audience already knows about. The expanded primarily health-related benefits and the special supplemental benefits for chronically ill. The reason those are important, though, is because I think they're behind a lot of this growth and new investment in supplemental benefits that we're seeing in the increase in the dollars. And just to highlight a couple of really interesting ones. So by far in these new categories, the winner, and I have to say, I would not have predicted this, 4 years ago when we started working on these new benefits, is in-home support services. So of all of the new expanded benefits that are available for plans to offer, sort of above and beyond the typical dental, transportation for medical, that kind of thing. In-home support services is the winner in terms of the number of plans that are offering it. It is growing the fastest, and it is available in the highest number of plans. The other kind of runner-up is food, but this is not kind of limited medical meals. This is just food, flat out food, groceries, if you will. And then the other kind of interesting thing that we're seeing is that just this past year, the benefit category that grew the fastest within the expanded primarily health related benefits was support for family caregivers. So we're seeing a really rapidly growing number of plans offering supports for family caregivers as part of their supplemental benefit offerings. So those are kind of the really interesting cutting edge trends that we're seeing.
That's great. I'm going to summarize that. I know we just probably a week and a half, 2 weeks off the Academy Awards, but the winner for fastest growing category is family caregivers. Food also scored high, and then the winner for most voted on SUPBEN was in-home support services. So those three. You got it. Well, I want to bring in Ashish. Ashish Shah is the CEO of Dina. Ashish, could you speak a little bit to how our plans now creating that culture of customer service, leveraging those benefits and everything else that goes into driving exceptional CAHPS scores and 4- and 5-star ratings? Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing?
Yeah, Eric, thanks again for having us. Just building a little bit on Ann's comments. I think the key word in that question there was culture. And so I think plans are doing an incredible job being aware of what their membership wants, whether it's food, transport, in-home services. But I think to really deliver, that 5-star experience, what we're seeing leading organizations do is really invest in their culture. And I'm reminded of the Harvard business case study on Southwest Airlines, and really thinking more about empowering their employees to really embody that love mindset or culture. And so we're seeing organizations really double down on their staff and making sure that they've got the right tools, that they're happy, and that then spills over into their touch points with members. We're also seeing that mindset also being extended to providers or organizations that they perhaps contract or collaborate with, and making sure that they're also making their life easier. And so beyond the member touch points, we're seeing organizations spend a lot about reimagining from the inside out how they take care of their own people and their partners, and making it easier for them to really unlock that 5 to 10-star experience, really.
I want to transfer or just move over a little bit now that we have, we've addressed the culture a little bit. I want to talk about consumer centricity. And I know, John, SCAN is known for their consumer-centric culture, and John Petito, by the way, is the corporate vice president again of strategy and transformation at SCAN Health Plan. John, where does the process begin to achieve sort of exceptional member experience and sort of consumer centricity? Where does it start?
Yeah, thank you, Eric, for the question. I think first, it starts with it not being by accident. Experience as a sort of a key tenet of SCAN strategy. It's paramount for the organization. 91% member satisfaction, not by accident, but because we spend a lot of time and invest in it in order to really get it right. For SCAN, it's a perspective that the member really doesn't care about the lines that we draw as organizations and entities within the healthcare ecosystem. They want things to just work. They want them to be easy. For SCAN, it starts with the moment that they're interacting with us, the first day that we get them. It's how we onboard them to their benefits, help them understand what they have access to. Even doing that, and I'll talk about that in a second, some of the top 5 reasons, that for people calling into our member service, it's asking about benefits, if they're eligible for benefits. We do not make it easy as an industry to take care of yourself, to access the benefits that are critical. So for us, onboarding, individualized onboarding, we outreach to every single new member that comes to SCAN to talk about their benefits. We conduct an HRA to understand their needs, and then tailor outreach based on that. We do in-language education. So we've grown a lot, where we are largely in the Southern California area, have a lot of diverse members. And so making sure that we're communicating them in languages in a way that they, actually understand what we're trying to help them with. We invest in broker service and actually have very strong relationships with the brokers that actually sell SCAN. The idea being that we need to make it easy for them to sell the products to members that are going to best fit their needs, and so that there's not a difference, an incongruence between what they thought they were going to get and what they actually got. And last, and I'll talk a little bit later about some of what we've been doing, but actually connecting some of our members with other members who are SCAN employees, our peers and senior advocates programs. So I'll talk about that later. But just as an example of some of the things that we're doing to create the access points that can help people to navigate their benefits. And like I said, this is not unintentional. This is all very strategic, and it's very, investment heavy in order to make sure that we're creating the right points for people to access that information. Our challenge and what we're focused on today, and a big part of my job, is looking at how we transform ourselves to make all of that scalable. How do we create that high touch? How do we help bring people on board, access their benefits in a way that can be brought nationwide, candidly? Thinking about things like digital, today's Medicare eligibles that are aging in were in their 40s when the internet was invented. This is, they're not for the first time learning how to use a phone. I knew the world had changed the first time I got an emoji, in a text message from my dad, who's in his 70s. And that was about 5 years ago. So, just as a leading indicator, things like AI, how do we use that to extend our staff, our people, knowing that we're in a tight labor market, and make it easier for them to focus on the experience and engaging with the members, not on doing routine ministerial type activities that frankly do not, create a lot of job satisfaction for them. And then the last thing that we're thinking about as far as bringing this, to scale, this high touch model, is better using data, not just our data, but other data, to understand how we can better personalize and engage with members around things that they need or they care about.
Great. I want to actually now take the onboarding process and go to the next stage. And so I'm going to do that in a moment with Don Maroney. Just before I do that, I'm going to try something that I've only tried once before, and do a quick little commercial and share my screen. And I want to tell you guys about something, if you haven't heard, if you've been on a show the last couple of weeks, we're actually having our first in-person event in August. And I'm really excited about it. We're calling it a roundtable summit or forum, and it's going to be covering bright spots in care models and consumer engagement. And just wanted everyone to know about it, because we're going to be doing it in Boston, August 24th and 25th. We've got a great group of panelists already confirmed. We're going to bring in about another half dozen. And what's important for everyone to know, and what makes this meeting unique, really unique, is two things. One, there's going to be no PowerPoint presentations. And two, it's for payers and providers, community-based organizations only, along with some select sponsors. And so I think this is really important. I spent a lot of time in my past life producing conferences, and a lot of time in my present life going to a lot of these meetings. And it strikes me that we really, to justify the time speaking at these events or attending these events, we need to come away with new ideas, new contacts, new ways of forwarding our own organization. And that's mainly done through peer-to-peer discussions. And so this event is designed around having a plenary panel and then breaking out the entire audience into facilitated roundtable discussions. So throughout the day and a half, we're going to cover different areas of topics, and you're going to be sitting at different roundtables if you choose to attend, with different attendees for each session. So ultimately, you'll have facilitated discussions on topics of meeting throughout the day and a half, and hopefully get to meet everyone in the room in that way, and come up with a lot of good ideas and a lot of great contacts. So if you want to take advantage of our pre-registration special rate, our producer is going to put a link into both the show notes for the podcast, as well as for you live attendees into the chat. So we'd love to see you in Boston, August 24th and 25th. It's going to be a lot of fun. The hotel's right on the water. Should be a blast. So Dawn Maroney is the CEO of Alignment Health Plan, and she's the president of markets at Alignment Health. Sorry, I can't get that done, Dawn. Dawn, once a member is enrolled and onboarded, how are you enabling the consumer to get the right care and the right wellness benefits at the right point of time?
Well, I love a lot of the information that was shared already thus far. The goal is to get to know the member, part of the onboarding process from a care standpoint, a service, and to make sure that they, to John's point, that they understand the benefits, of the program. But we've created many, many years ago a plan, a product around our Jumpstart assessment. And how do you get to know that consumer specifically that's enrolling in your plan that you have primarily in a lot of cases, you don't have a lot of data around that individual. You have a few checkoff points when it comes to the application from an enrollment standpoint, but how do you get to know them from a clinical standpoint? And so we've called it the Jumpstart appointment. And we want to be very proactive when it comes to the clinical care or the care that's absolutely needed in collaboration with the physician that they've selected or that they're enrolled with, and the needs of medications that they're taking. Are those continually the right medications that are happening? But proactive care is key. We also want to discover, to say, is this individual actually going in and seeing a doctor? Or are there things that block them? They don't have a car. They don't have help in the home. And so access to care is really, really critical. And it's more than just seeing that physician. It's making sure that you go off all of the checkpoints of that enrollee, going back to the original statement of medications, how their environment is in the home. Do they have a pet? All of the above. And is there loneliness going on? And so proactive care is absolutely necessary. And then, there's a lot of enablement when it comes to the technology platform that we have, a proprietary system that's called AVA. And what we do is we do a lot of data input to make sure that all that information, what's important to the consumer, is readily available. So when they connect with us, that we are talking to them in their language, not only just from language and translation, but language on what's important to them. And then how often we need to see them with our clinicians, whether it's in the home or it's a full, virtual appointment, or getting them access to their own doctor and or specialists. And the goal is to touch 100% of the population, but we've been performing anywhere from 60 to 70% of new enrollment that's coming in. We have challenges within the organization to how do you elevate that percentage even higher. And in some areas are more successful, and some areas are not as successful. So we need to elevate that. So the more you're in front of it is the more that you'll have opportunity to get to know them, but create high member or customer or care satisfaction, in addition to be proactive about care versus seeing them later on when they're admitted into an ER or urgent or an emergency situation.
So I just want to summarize. After enrollment, this is called Jumpstart appointments. And I heard 4 key things: the proactive care, then getting to know them. You have this technology enablement platform, and then finally delivering the right service at the right time based upon all the inputs that you just got during that Jumpstart appointment.
Correct. And then, of course, the quality measures, which are critical, that help lift stars. It's helped lift we have a higher percentage of jump starts in North Carolina. It helped us secure that 5-star plan, readmissions, and then, of course, risk adjustment. There are a lot of people that have a lot of needs, that are chronic, have multiple chronic conditions, and you're not being funded or paid at that level because there is no documentation or care plans to support that. So it has helped us be quite successful as an organization through many of our states.
I think it makes sense right now to shift a little bit into benefits and navigation specifically. So I'm going to bring back Ann Tumlinson, CEO, ATI Advisory. And when you survey payers across the country, how are they delivering on supplemental benefits today? Give us like a quick overview to get started.
Yeah, sure. So what we've observed is that payers are really ramping up the sophistication of the platforms that support engagement and retention. So especially when you're talking about the benefits that I was introducing at the beginning that are non-medical in nature, they're less typical. It's not enough to just offer them. These are not things that, the members are going to go out and immediately understand, what it is and how to get it and how to get it paid for. So pest control, for example, if that's part of your benefit package, sort of from a health plan perspective, how does that work? The beneficiary's got a lot of questions. So it's not enough to just offer these. You have to also offer ease of access. Because if you don't, it actually just can create more friction for that member. So there are 3 strategies that we've observed that they're not mutually exclusive. They can work hand in hand. The first is really reducing the friction around the payment, creating a debit card. For example, sending the member, some kind of a points card that they can use when they're working with the in-network providers in this category. The other thing is just making everything as flexible as possible. These are not things that fit neatly into, a visit here, a visit there. They require some degree of flexibility, whether you're talking about, food and in-home support services, non-medical transportation. Maybe you offer access to all of those in different kinds of combinations and packages. And then finally, there's nothing that substitutes for handholding, and the ability to easily contact somebody for support through this process if you have questions or facing any kind of challenges with the service being activated and delivered.
I like that. So in opposite order of my notes here, the handholding of the concierge service, the flexible benefits, and then reducing friction for payment, aka like a debit card. It's a perfect segue. Dawn, I'd love to bring you back in. Dawn Maroney is the CEO of Alignment Health Plan and wait for it, President Markets at Alignment. So finally took 3 times. So let's talk about reducing friction for payments, and tell us maybe a little bit about how you guys are enabling your members to frictionlessly access supplemental benefits.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a little bit of time, but it's interesting because you think about, wanted to do something unique with the card, the traditional medical card that individuals have. And about 3 to 4 years ago, I was talking to our team literally at a cubicle and basically said, how do we make something that's a little bit more tangible, that you can centralize things that are not your traditional Medicare covered services and have things that will help individuals get access to things that they can't typically get access to today. And then create a program where they can call into a concierge service and navigate those supplemental programs that are above and beyond traditional Medicare coverage to help them. It's kind of similar to a hotel, and the card is similar to American Express that I think about. So when you walk into a hotel, you check in, but when you want something special, you actually go to a concierge to make that special experience, and from an experience management perspective. The card is similar. What we design is the Black Card, similar to the American Express Black Card, but you don't have to pay, a huge fee annually, and you don't have to spend over $250,000 a year. How do you make sure that no matter who you are, if you are on a dual or if you're fully somebody that can afford a PPO plan, but how do you make sure that they have access to the same level of coverage with this program, offering over-the-counter items, access to care when it comes to telehealth through a clinical program, and then a concierge team that's dedicated and bundling all those services. And then you can also promote rewards around that. And so that card was launched close to 4 years ago. And because we have a clinical team, we have over 100 clinicians that see patients via in the home or through a virtual setting. We have, we've navigated and formed this concierge customer service experience, and then we designed the card. But it's important so that we can navigate specifically to make sure that we're being proactive, as I shared earlier. when people are calling, to identify those consumers up front, to say, do they need something more than just talking about their over-the-counter item? Do they need food? Do they need access to water? Do they need something because they're in an environment that they don't have access to, heating or air conditioning, whatever it needs to be? It is the goal to work along and coordinate that program, but funnel it through the card. So the card is a tangible item that gets people to call us to talk about things that are not traditional transactional type items, and gets them navigating into our clinical experience management, data input. So the more we know about our consumers or our members, the more that we can be proactive in giving them the care that they need. And then the result is, quality measures, retention, and then again, keeping people out of the hospital and giving them the ultimate experience. And so STARS is a part of it, Net Promoter Scores, some of the areas of measurement, and then getting as much information about that consumer as possible. So it's been quite successful. There, are things that, as you grow, you need to address and make sure that you're, working with partners that are aligned in that same vision as you're extending out some of those services.
Neat. I think so. The business, you answered it before I even got to ask it, but like, so why it's so important to the business. I'm just going to summarize the three things I heard: NPS, STARS, and then the data, because data has a lot.
Yes.
It's great. I want to do two things right now, real quick. First of all, I've heard dual eligibles being mentioned a couple of times. We have two upcoming live shows or live events. I want virtual events that I want everyone to know about. And if you want to bypass our registration, we'll have Sherry put up a poll right now. And if you click yes, we will just pre-register you and you don't have to do anything. Our next live webinar and podcast recording is called Unique Approaches to Building Trust with Dual Eligible Members on April 13th. And on April 26th, if you're a payer, we have a payer-only private roundtable via Zoom, where we're going to talk about how plans can build actionable and sustainable social care programs. So two exciting programs that we're having in the month of April. I do have a show dropping next week. Don't worry if you're I had a one-on-one with the chief operating officer at Banner Health, and that will drop in your podcast feed next week. So if you haven't subscribed yet to the podcast, wherever you listen, simply click subscribe and to Bright Spots in Healthcare, and you'll get it delivered to you right to your tablet or your phone. So I want to bring in Ashish Shah, CEO of Dina, and I want Ashish, I'd love to talk about how hard it is to navigate and why, and why are some sort of navigators better than others, and how are you able to enable navigators, your navigators, to do more, or the ones that you work with to do more with less?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we've spent a lot of time in the field really with the navigators and the coordinators to really understand what their challenges are. And just sort of to build on Dawn's comments around travel as a analogy here, it's trying to land in a city and make it to a really great restaurant that you've heard about, but without a GPS, not knowing whether it's open, not knowing if the food is good or if other people believe it to be good, and then having some sort of feedback loop. Being a navigator today in a growing organization like SCAN and Alignment and so many others, where Medicare Advantage membership is growing significantly, each one of these organizations offers a unique set of benefits across multiple different health plan products. And so the challenge that a navigator has is to, one, understand that benefit construct for that particular individual. So who can benefit from food or transport in-home services, and are they eligible? That also comes in for the particular product that they're enrolled in. But then secondly, who has availability? And I think one of the things that we're seeing in the industry is that everyone is really constrained with staffing and labor, not only at the plan side of it, but also for those who are helping fulfill these benefits, in-home services, food, transport, et cetera. So being able to unlock and figure out who has availability so that the member can access the benefit in a timely manner is a growing challenge. It's been a challenge for some time, but it's growing in its scope. And so first, what is the benefit? 2, who's the best fit person to actually fulfill it? 3, do they have capacity and availability to do it in a reasonable time frame? So if you're telling me that you can deliver that meal for me and I need it in the next day, it's not very helpful to know that I can get it in 2 weeks from now. And so, just to kind of put it into some concrete terms there, this is a lot of what we're dealing with. It's not because the navigators aren't great, by the way. I mean, if you get a chance to spend time with navigators and organizations, these are some of the best people. They've got an incredible job. They're typically creating great outcomes, but it takes heroic effort. And so as organizations like Alignment and SCAN and others enter into new markets, enroll new people attracted into these benefits, a part of Medicare Advantage, the challenge really is how do you sustain that heroic experience in a tight labor market that's also personalized? One of the things that I think Dawn touched on was, trying to get to 100% touch point here with the membership. And I think the target was around 60 or 70, which is great, by the way. Of course, we'd all like to be at 100%, but, I think technology can help here. And I know that we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about it, but it's not just technology. We need to get the navigators in a situation where they are actually spending time with the member, delivering the human experience, and not battling the system, trying to navigate, a map without a GPS, for example. They should be actually talking to the member, dealing with their specific concerns and needs.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, it strikes me that, healthcare and this portion of healthcare is has such growing importance as we learn more and more about what keeps people healthier for longer. And the fact that we're asking our navigators and our care managers to be using faxes and phone calls and emails and all that stuff to coordinate and activate services, it seems a little 2010 for as I say it out loud. I just want to, because Dina's we don't do shows like this, aren't able to do any of our shows without the support of our corporate partners, and Dina's been with us now for a while, and they're terrific. And I just want to give you like a heads up on who they are again. When you hear about all this, the challenges of payers working through all the basically a wild goose chase with no infrastructure of finding all these benefits and trying to ensure that your members get to these places and coordinate care. And it's the Wild West right now. And obviously, healthcare providers are very short-staffed as well. Dina sort of sometimes comes in as the hero in sort of this little movie that, everyone has to live through. They provide the benefits and care coordination solutions to support health plans and providers as they extend care management into the home. And their customers, their clients are using a SaaS technology platform to digitize the network of community and home-centered providers, and they're transforming the workflow. So it's really what's important to everyone listening is it transforms the workflow so that your team needs to spend less time on the phone, less time at the fax machine or sending a digital fax and collecting performance data. That's something that they do for you to continuously improve the network of providers you have, and they capture this data directly from the home. Last year, Dina was named to both the Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing private companies and the CB Insights Digital Health 150 list of companies that are transforming healthcare and digital technology. So again, check them out if you haven't already at DINAcare, that's one word, .com. And incidentally, there was a piece that Ashish, I don't know if I'm embarrassed you here, but your team sent me this to prepare for the episode at the Managed Care Executive that you wrote on at-home-based supplemental benefits. And you cover the value-based insurance design model. I think you covered, if I remember the list you created, I love lists, as everyone knows, 6 steps to a digital transformation. So if people want a copy of that, they don't want to search for it online or go through a firewall or not a firewall, a gate. I'm happy to send that to you right after the show. So Sherry, why don't we throw something up there so we know who wants it, and I'll send directly that article out. It's a 2-pager. It's really informative, but easy to read, which is what you need to do if you want me to read it. All right. So people.
Thanks, Eric. Thoroughly embarrassed though. So thank you for doing that. Appreciate it.
That's what I do. That's what I do. So I want to get into people and process and bring back John Petito, who's like been the field goal kicker getting iced right now. But John, who's the Corporate VP of Strategy and Transformation at SCAN. John, can you provide an example of how you guys are leveraging peers? You alluded to it earlier, but leveraging Medicare members in a very effective way to engage other members and also contribute to this benefit navigation conundrum.
Yeah, this is a program that I did not know about prior to joining SCAN, but is one of my favorite programs. There's lots to pick from, where we effectively employ SCAN members to serve in an advocate role. We've got peer and senior advocates, and the program is not new. It's, I think, either 15 or 20 years old. But we connect members to these advocates. They assist with all sorts of issues, from helping them to navigate benefits, helping them with onboarding. They will even call and discuss when they've identified a particular issue that a member has, to talk through how to effectively navigate the system as someone who has been through it as a SCAN member within the benefit construct that we have. What we found is it's an incredible sort of vehicle or way to connect with members that is very different from having someone who has not, walked a mile in their shoes to create that engagement and that touch point. And these are folks, and I've spoken to a whole number of them that really actually love the job. They love interacting with their members. They wake up every day excited to do it. And for most of them, I don't think they actually need to be doing it. It's something that they chose to do. And we found to be very effective across a whole host of different processes, from, effectively the onboarding and educating benefits members about their benefits, but then also when they're accessing them and using them, being there as a peer, as someone that's also done it. From a SCAN, business perspective, there's two things that, really sort of jump out to me. One is, finding ways to truly engage with members. And I think that is a challenge for a lot of organizations in healthcare. As executives, we talk about, well, if the member would do this or this, in an ideal state world. And, part of it is we haven't earned the trust for them to engage with us and come to us when they have issues. And like I said before, I think a lot of members, and people as a whole just don't really care, who they should be calling. They just want the problem to be resolved. They want it to be easy. And I think the advocates are really a great way that we found in order to engage with members and build that trust, so that we can then do more things with them and for them to help them with their health and independence. The other thing I'd say, and I think Ashish, you had touched on it, and anyone who's been to a restaurant, or a hotel knows that labor shortages plague every industry, including healthcare. And, from a macro sort of labor market perspective, employing older adults that are otherwise retired, not in the job market, has actually been a really effective way for us to scale our workforce, and a very effective part of our workforce that, can really relate to the members. And so that has been something that I've been sort of reflecting on, how we can do other things like that to engage people that otherwise may not want to, or may not otherwise be working. Because I think, to Ashish's point before, and we'll talk a little bit about sort of the use of technology writ large. There's only so much that technology can do. And I think its role is to elevate and extend your workforce, but it does not alleviate the need to have the people to actually interact with your members.
And I love this. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, is sort of integrating peers into the healthcare system. John, are you in any way, how are you measuring the success of the program if you don't have like economic metrics? Do you have NPS or customer sat scores, or how do you know it's working? Well,
so we measure it at a variety of different levels. From there are things that we're engaging this team to do that relate to, HOS or CAHPS, and so specific things that we're trying to move the needle on with our members, or, we're trying to get them to get a flu shot, when they may not otherwise have done it. So there are programmatic type things that we're looking at. We're also looking at sort of tactical things like, how many times are they engaging with the member? Are they completing HRAs for the member? Are they contacting them? We do not measure at this point NPS at this particular level. We measure it at the aggregate level. But we know from surveys and feedback that we do with our members that is a very, I guess, a very significant driver of the satisfaction with SCAN overall.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I would figure that. And I love the fact that and also it helps fuel your workforce in a way that maybe you wouldn't have that option, especially in today's market. And I'd love to bring you back in to talk about supplemental benefits as a whole, because I know there's plans of all kinds of opportunities now to reinvent the healthcare experience with all these different sub benefits. So when you survey plans, what are the biggest challenges, the threats, and the opportunities that they see around supplemental benefits? And I know this was asked in the Q&A online, but I'd love to answer it also verbally for you. You know, how are you defining in-home benefits? You know, and what is in-home benefits? Is, you know, this attendee specifically said, do we offer PayPal? Is that an in-home service? So we could kind of two questions for you for the price of one.
Sure. No problem. So in-home support services refers to services usually provided by a certified home care agency, not home health. Let me be really clear, because just as an aside, a lot of members and their caregivers are interacting with health plan staff who do not know the difference between the Medicare covered home health benefit and in-home support services that is a supplemental benefit. And the difference is that the in-home support services is directly related to providing personal care in the home by an aide who is supporting the need for assistance with activities of daily living, like bathing and eating and dressing. So we think of that as a long-term care need, which is why it's so revolutionary that Medicare Advantage plans can actually pay for this now. And so that's very distinct from a certified Medicare home health benefit, which is, you know, in-home rehab and skilled care. And often they are different agencies that are providing them, which is why, you know, it's really important for plans to be very aware of the fact that without question, once you have a need for any of the kinds of benefits that are being offered through these new supplemental benefit categories, family caregiver support, in-home support services, food, these are things that are there's no infrastructure in our country for helping, you know, older adults who are hitting that stage of the life where they have to kind of begin to interact with all of these different kinds of support services that they might need in order to stay in their home and age in place. So there's, you know, talk about, you know, earning the trust of your members. You know, the number one challenge that they are facing is sort of learning about, you know, where to go in order to access many of these benefits. So, so plans are also facing that challenge, right? Because you're now offering these benefits that are not part of an infrastructure that through which your members can go, and so you kind of have to build it from scratch.
Hey, Ann, I'm sorry. We
yeah.
have a question that you just spawned. I want to ask the audience. So Sherry posted, like, I want to hear from the audience. How do we coordinate? How do they coordinate home-centric or supplemental benefits? Because it's right in line with what you're saying. So while you're continuing to answer, sorry for the interruption, let's throw that up there and see.
No problem. Looks like we have a lot of other questions popping up as well in the Q&A, which is awesome. Yeah, so I think all I was going to say was that is that it's really critical for the plans to be thinking about how they're going to support the navigation of these benefits. So we talked earlier about the sort of how they're designed and delivered, but I think also how your members are going to navigate that marketplace. So actually creating, and in many cases, what we're seeing is plans are, with the support from partners or solutions like Dina, you know, they're actually working to create a marketplace for all of these different supports and services, and then, you know, kind of combining that digital platform or that interaction space for the member with a care navigation support.
It's great. Thank you for that. John, you know, on that line, how are you enabling your teams to navigate consistently and to ensure that they're not only getting the right care, but this exceptional experience that's so hard to deliver in and around supplemental benefits?
Yeah, I'll just talk about one specific thing that we're doing and I, to set the context, and I believe Ashish had used a similar phrase. And, in my previous life, I was a management consultant, what I call my misspent youth. And, we looked at a number of plans where you would have member service reps, accessing up to 20 plus applications in order to respond and provide service to the member they were speaking to. And I don't know how you can expect, to create an excellent experience, for your members in that interaction, when you're effectively asking your employees to multitask. And so I think, part of the philosophy is it's not just access, the experience component as well. It's how do you simplify the employee experience, take work off of their plates so that they can focus on delivering that great experience and helping people actually solve the issues that they need to, not just what they're calling about. In looking at, some of the things that we can do at SCAN, we've looked at automation, digital solutions, AI. We're looking at, estimates that I've seen from various industry experts, 30% of the work that employees can, that do today can be automated. And the way we're thinking about it at SCAN is, what if you took that 30% of time and you reinvested that in experience? It's not that you would get a one-to-one. My guess is you get a 2x, 3x, potentially even an exponential return on the experience that you're creating because of all the time that you're investing in it that you otherwise couldn't. The example is we are currently working with Dina. We just went live with them very recently, around our LTSS benefits. So the long-term supportive services, the in-home services that dual eligibles qualify for. We've got about 25,000 members that have access to in-home services like home care, meals, durable medical equipment, PERS. And how do we help get that in the homes to the folks when they need it? Especially in light of the labor market shortage, especially in the home care space, where it is really hard to find labor and place them into the home. So actually getting the support, the benefit that people have access to, the vendors that we partner with, our provider partners, to deliver is really hard. And so, Dina, as a technology solution, helped us to streamline, getting referrals out to these providers. So instead of going from one to the next, seeing who had availability, we're now pushing everything out at the same time. And the providers then, it's first come, first serve. They're in network, they choose to take it, they close the referral. And that has done two things for us. One, it has actually started to improve the timeliness with which we're able to deliver the benefit, because it's accelerating the response time. But also, from where we are today, it's estimating it's going to be saving us thousands of hours of staff time, which we can then redeploy back into experience, having our folks on the phone with members, checking in to see how the experience is, what other issues they have, versus spending time playing phone tag with, providers trying to get access from the beginning.
That's great. I think what I want to do, and there's one question from an audience member I think I'd like to try to get to close. So let's do this. I want to cover the digital marketplace component of what you just said, John. And so I'm going to bring in Ashish to do that. And then Dawn, I want to talk a little bit. I want to kind of come back to the very beginning of the actual show and talk a little bit about people and culture. And then I think that the last question for John, and I'll ask John and Dawn from the audience. I think that'll get us right till the 1 o'clock hour here on the East Coast. So Ashish, what is sort of a marketplace or a digital marketplace, and how are they leveraging that to enable CAHPS scores to maintain strong benefits?
Yeah, I think one thing that we're seeing is plans are, as Ann has highlighted, and John and Dawn, plans are becoming very innovative in how they are unlocking new benefits to meet the member where they are on their journey to help them live their very best life. And, just caring for a mother who's in the Medicare bracket, the product is awesome, actually. To hear people talk about whether it's their gym membership or other benefits that they're gaining access to, I think the plans are doing an incredible job delighting their members. The intent is there. The opportunity is to really take all of these great benefits and organize it into a digital marketplace so that there is one place, think almost Amazon-like, where you can navigate all the different things that are right for you in that moment. Could be food, could be transport, could be in-home services. And oh, by the way, I think Ann touched on this, it could be support for your family caregiver who's an adult taking care of you, and perhaps there's respite capacity or other sort of services. And so organizing that into a one-stop shop making it easy for the health plans navigators to be able to understand that and dynamically navigate is sort of step one. But I think if you sort of jump into the future, not so far down the road, and build on some of the great things that Dawn mentioned as it related to the Amex-like card experience, being able to open that marketplace up to not only just the health plan navigators, but also to the members and their family caregivers to self-direct, I think is going to be something that some members want. It may not be for everyone. You really need to think multi-channel here. Which ones are going to want to make a phone call? Which ones are going to want to have their hand held? Which ones are going to want to have to do it themselves? Which ones are going to want to delegate to their family members to take care of it? But it all starts with a really easy, well-organized, easy to navigate marketplace of the benefits. And those are constantly evolving. You know, one thing that I'm really impressed by in terms of the broader community is just the speed at which new creative benefits are being turned on. So it's not just about in-home services today or transport. I think when we look at 2024, 2025, the market is going to continue to innovate because they need to meet the demand of what the membership and consumers ultimately want. I think if you don't organize that into a really easy digital marketplace, you're constantly in this sort of retraining, navigating the world without a GPS moment on the health plan side of it. So I think there's a ton of potential there.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in really quick and say, I mean, I think it's a member retention opportunity because you're making not only, you know, is it member engagement, but it's also member retention because you're solving a larger problem actually for those members and their caregivers.
I want to, Dawn, I want to get to a question around people in a moment, but I want to ask you first, and John, I'm going to actually have you on deck for this too, is a really good question from one of our folks in the live audience. What's the best way to ensure that you get feedback from the advocates and the navigators out in the virtual field and make sure that they get acted on by leadership at a health plan? So the example they give is, what if a navigator or a team of navigators are consistently finding that their members need something, but that solution is that supplemental benefit is not in place within your portfolio of partnerships? You know, how do you get that information? How are you collecting that feedback and bringing that all the way up within your organization? So I'll start with you, Dawn.
In each of our markets, we have collaborative ops reviews that goes through specifically feedback directly from like whether it's a case management folks or member experience teams. And there's a lot of information that's, collaborated or pulled up, and it's all the way up to the highest level. I mean, everybody in the organization with the C-suite organization. And, I'd like to think of it as when our members need something, it's my job to advocate with CMS directly to get them that access, whether it's a benefit or not a benefit. And, while the pandemic brought a lot of issues and a lot of, fear and a lot of problems to the world, the one thing that it did do is allowed us as a leadership and as an organization, meaning the healthcare organization in the Medicare Advantage space, to work directly with CMS to allow certain things to happen that were outside of the benefits, i.e. food. We worked really heavily because we had a lot of members that had access to getting food during this time, but they were afraid to go to the stores. Yeah. And so we would go and shop for our members, and we had volunteers from agents and, you name it, go out and shop and deliver to the door and drop off at the door for members. Now, in an environment, a very regulated environment, we would fund that. So we would pay for that as an organization, but you had to have that as a benefit in prior years. And so it's given that flexibility. But the input comes in through the experience. And it's a centralized data center that we composite, as well as meeting face-to-face with not only the advocacy groups or the caregivers or the navigators, but we do continuous virtual town hall meetings such as this, similar to this forum, with thousands of members. I've had town halls when I've talked to members of 11,000 members through a phone technology platform on a call, and those questions come. And so it's a lot of work to do it, but you just have to make that commitment to make sure that you're hearing their voice and what they're requesting.
John, do you have a similar process? Is there anything different you want to add in what you're doing at SCAN to collect feedback from the navigators themselves? And
Yeah, I think there's two things. One is, we think about it as far as, actually hearing the voice of the customer, the member, through the advocates, through the navigators, through the member facing staff. And very similar to Dawn, we have a number of different vehicles that we do, that we hold to get that feedback. We have, listening sessions with staff. Actually, part of our product development process is giving a seat at the table to folks in various parts of the organization, including those in the clinical care management function. So they're actually sitting at the table helping to define what product looks like for the next selling season. We have sessions with the peer and senior advocates that I mentioned earlier to actually hear from them as members, but also serving members. And then we've got sort of the big data type sort of tools as well, where we use, natural language processing, and we're running analytics over the calls that, go back and forth. The other piece, though, in sort of my mind, the way we think about things at SCAN is not just hearing the voice of the member through our interactions with the members and our staff, but hearing the voice of our staff as far as not just doing the job, but how they can improve the job in working and supporting with the members. And, in my mind, it's like kind of a capacity building type sentiment. It's helping them to understand what is the art of the possible. So, education around sort of what AI, what digital technology is capable of these days. Even the example of, $49 billion of withdrawals in 48 hours at Silicon Valley Bank because of Twitter. Sort of getting folks to understand that we are in a different world than we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and helping and enabling our staff through various forums like the ones I mentioned to give their ideas. I think often the frontline staff are the best sources for transforming and improving how we deliver our benefits and experience to our members.
Great. I want to two things, folks. First of all, remember to take that feedback survey, provide us guidance for Q3 and Q4 programming. There'll be less arguments in our production room if you could guide us accordingly. Second thing is, I know everyone's probably familiar with alignment and with SCAN, and I'm not looking to be their evangelist here, but I will tell you that you should check them out online, see what they're doing. They're absolutely doing things a little bit differently than the average plan, and I think they're two of the bright spots in the industry. I want to close things out because we are talking about people, and John set us up very nicely down here. And we started at the very beginning of the show and talking about what it takes to do exceptionally well on CAHPS scores, and we discussed how it takes more than just customer service. It takes an entire culture focused on the Medicare consumer. So how have you been able to build such a remarkable 4- and 5-star series of products at Alignment, and how do you approach building your team?
In the recruitment process, I mean, it really is given the job market today, it's tough to find the right people because it's not just a job, it really is a culture. And so we look at it in several buckets, making sure that they want to work with a company that puts the senior first. And then along that, how do you support the doctor during that process? And then, of course, enable technology and then have a serving heart culture. So when we're recruiting and looking at people, you have to want to work with seniors, at least the space that we're in. And it is tough. People will say it, they go through full interviews. You just want to make sure because it's a different skill set, and you want somebody that cares, that really cares. So it truly is not just a job, but it really is a culture.
Great. I know we're at the top of the hour here. First of all, I want to thank all of you. This panel, folks, they took a lot of time and effort to prepare and participate today. So I want to thank you all. I really do appreciate it. And for everyone listening, my message to all of you is, use the strategy of looking for bright spots, things that are working well amongst the chaos in healthcare, because it's these programs, these tactics that often generate progress and sometimes an entire solution strategy to your toughest challenges, like improving your benefits navigation, your care coordination, and your overall customer service scores. So we hope you could use the bright spots shared today to inspire some new thinking at your organization, because that's what this show's all about. We thank you all for taking the hour to listen. And as always, I'd like to remind everyone that this is your Bright Spots in Healthcare podcast. Take care, everyone.